In the world of overlanding, we often think that bigger is better. 12-volt refrigerators, bigger battery banks, bigger solar panels, bigger water tanks, bigger shadow awnings. I mean, the list just goes on and on. When I was outfitting my Toyota Tacoma for overlanding several years ago, that's exactly the way that I thought. But after years of traveling and living in my setup, I've decided on a much better approach. Because I came to the realization that the secret to better overlanding isn't about going bigger at all. Hi, I'm Steve Frazier, and to be honest, I've learned some of these lessons the hard way. I spend 4 to 6 months each year exploring North America's most remote national forest and BLM public lands in a custom-built, armor-plated Toyota Tacoma with an Alucab canopy camper. And after traversing more than 14,000 miles to do wildlife and landscape photography, which is my passion, in some of this continent's most remote landscapes, I've discovered that staying self-sufficient isn't about having the biggest gear. It's about having the system that's right for you. So I'm doing something that might sound just a bit crazy. I'm getting rid of my expensive 12-volt refrigerator. Not because it failed me, which it never did, but because I've come up with a system that's completely changed my approach to overlanding journeys that go deep into the backcountry. As a result, I've reclaimed precious cargo space, significantly reduced my power consumption, and my food supply, that now lasts 4 to 6 months without needing to replenish it. Most importantly, I've substantially reduced the risk of dangerous encounters with bears and other wildlife that are often attracted to cooking odors. So, whether you're planning your next weekend trip or an expedition that will last for months on end, this approach could completely change how you think about food storage and food safety, not only for the trails, but at home too. My trusty 12-volt Snowmaster fridge has been a constant power drain. And depending on cloud cover and forest shade, my solar system hasn't always been able to keep up with demands. Besides that, I carry a ton of electronic gear. You know, things like computers, cameras, I've got some GoPros, drones, I've got a phone, flashlights, power banks. I mean, all of that stuff needs to be recharged frequently. Many of us overlanders underestimate the substantial power needs that those devices need when combined. Now, when you're deep under those beautiful canopies with tall trees and thick leaves, sunlight can be a luxury. It's actually amazing how much sunlight is blocked by a forest until you're out there under it. And that means that your solar panels are going to struggle. So to keep my batteries charged, my main batteries, and also all of that electronic equipment, I had to resort occasionally to something that I despise, and that's idling the truck. So I'd be out there in the rainforest, for instance, and haven't seen sunlight for days. So I would idle the truck for half an hour or longer, sometimes a couple times a day, and I just watched as my gas gauge slowly went down. I felt like it was a constant struggle trading one resource for another. And that's when I knew that I had to find a better way, especially since I've got a long trip planned to go up into Canada and Alaska, all the way from down in southern Florida starting. So idling the truck, it's just not going to cut it. My solution wasn't a bigger battery bank or adding more solar panels. No, instead, I combined two technologies in a way that you probably haven't heard discussed a lot on the online overlanding community forums. Downsizing to a smaller, more efficient refrigerator in the truck, and at the same time purchasing a freeze dryer to use at home. Now, I'll admit the whole idea of freeze drying was kind of foreign to me and seemed kind of off the wall at first. I remember seeing this ad for a freeze dryer And it was a commercial one. And when I looked into it, the costs were just like enormous. And I backed away from it and didn't think about it. Kind of croaked. But then I stumbled across an ad for a freeze dryer that's specifically made for home. And that's when the wheels really started turning. Together, the smaller refrigerator and the freeze dryer form this complete system that has literally transformed my overlanding setup. And it's done it in ways that I hadn't fully anticipated. Now, I'm able to carry 4 to 6 months of food. And I've eliminated the need to rely on a limited variety of dry goods as I have in the past, or what little I could put into the refrigerator. I no longer need to search for a grocery store to replenish my food supplies as I go between forests. And my power consumption? I've slashed it dramatically, making it much easier to keep my batteries charged with solar energy. And I'm really excited to have cleared up valuable cargo space, which on these long journeys is really a premium. And I have reduced the weight that I carry in my truck. And to top it off, I haven't compromised my meal quality or nutrition one iota. You've probably heard me say that I've lost weight on my previous trips. So much so to the point that when I saw relatives along the way, they would comment about how much weight I had lost, that I was starting to look thin. But now I'm going to be eating those same nutritious meals that I eat at home. Let's talk about how each part of this system works together, starting with the freeze dryer here at home. Freeze drying removes water from the food while it preserves the structure and nutrients of the food. And the science behind this is actually pretty interesting. First, the food is frozen, going down to a negative 10 degrees Fahrenheit or lower. Then it is subjected to a very strong vacuum. Next, the temperature is gradually raised from below freezing to 120 degrees Fahrenheit. Yet, here's the surprising and amazing part. Because of that vacuum, the food remains frozen even at this high temperature. But something remarkable begins to happen. The ice in the food transforms directly into a water vapor without ever becoming liquid water. It's a process they call sublimation. Because the ice never turns into a liquid, the food's structure, flavor, and nutrients remain perfectly intact. The water vapor escapes from the food, and then it refreezes as ice on the chamber walls, safely away from the food. Freeze drying removes about 98 to 99% of the content of the water in the food. As a result, the weight reduction of the food is approximately 90%. But 97% of the original nutritional value of the food is preserved. And this is where the home component of this system really shines. Using the freeze dryer, I can preserve virtually any meal or food, from hearty stews, chilies, fresh vegetables, and get this, I've even freeze-dried ice cream. These aren't those expensive commercially prepared camping meals. They're my own home-cooked meals. And I know exactly what ingredients are in them. And for me, that's especially important since A, I'm trying to eat healthier, and B, I'm trying to avoid some of those foods that I'm allergic to. And the best part? The food comes out tasting exactly like it did when it went in. So no more questionable preservatives, no more mystery ingredients, just real, honest to goodness, delicious food that's ready for the trail when I head out. Now, I know what you're thinking. A home freeze dryer? That sounds expensive. And you're right. Just like outfitting your rig, it is an investment. A quality freeze dryer costs about $3,000. And each batch that you make in it adds about $2 to $3 in electricity. I should note that the other day I saw that Harvest Right has a small Pro Freeze dryer, and it starts about $2,100. But let's break down how this type of investment fits into your overlanding system by looking at the actual numbers. Let's say that you decide to buy those commercially freeze-dried meals for a long trip. They cost from $12 to $15 each, right? And let's say that your overlanding trip is going to last for 4 months. So that's 360 meals. So all of those store-bought freeze-dried meals are going to cost between $4,300 and $5,400. Let that sink in for a moment. That's a big ouch, right? Now, if you make those same meals at home, it's going to cost $3 to $4.50 per serving, and that includes the energy the freeze dryer uses. That's just $1,080 to $1,620 for 360 meals that'll last the entire 4-month trip. So the savings are dramatic. You'll save between $3,240 and $3,780 for one 4-month trip. If you use this method, combining a small refrigerator with freeze-dried meals for your expeditions, the numbers don't lie. Your freeze dryer actually pays for itself after just one long trip like this. But that's only the beginning. Think about how much you'll save preserving your garden's harvest or your leftovers after meals, those restaurant leftovers, or rescuing groceries that are nearing their expiration dates. Each and every freeze dryer batch adds more value to your original investment, but it goes beyond mere savings. You're taking foods that you already love and creating adventure-ready meals out of them, perfect for your next expedition or for emergency preparedness. And I want to emphasize something else that I feel is really important. While I personally have chosen to use a home freeze dryer to prepare food for my extended expeditions, you don't need to buy one to implement this type of a system. For weekend adventures or shorter trips, commercially available freeze-dried meals work perfectly well with a smaller fridge approach. You'll still get many of the key benefits: reduced power consumption, better space utilization, and, the biggie for me, enhanced wildlife safety. The preservation quality of freeze-dried food is another major advantage. When properly stored in Mylar bags, these meals can retain up to 97% of their original nutrients. And they can last up to a, drumroll please, whopping 30 years stored here at home, or for years while you're out there on the hot, dusty trails. And all of that without any refrigeration. So let's put that into perspective. Dehydrated foods that are dried with hot air, think of things like raisins, and canned foods typically retain 50 to 60% of their nutrients, while frozen foods can lose 40 to 60% of their nutritional value over time. And consider this, frozen foods should be kept for a limited time, 1 month to a year, depending on what you're storing. Let me show you how my food preparation component of this system works. And here's something important. While you can freeze dry raw meats and raw eggs and those type of things, I cook all of my food before I freeze dry it. This not only ensures food safety, but it means that I never have to cook a meal out there on the trail, especially meat at camp, which could attract unwanted visitors. I package my cooked meals in single-serving Mylar bags, making camp preparation a breeze. And I use larger bags for versatile ingredients like diced chicken that I can mix with several other freeze-dried dishes over the next 2 or 3 days. So that's where the compact fridge really proves its worth in this system. Instead of trying to store weeks of fresh food, I now only have to store food that's opened and I haven't eaten yet, like diced chicken, big bag of it. And also keep some other basics like butter, condiments, and some supplements in there. It couldn't be simpler. But where I think this system truly shines is at the evening mealtime. I don't have to go around gathering up firewood and juggling pots and pans over hot, smoky campfires, or worrying about fire bans, or trying to start a campfire when there's nothing but damp, soaked wood around. And I don't have to worry about what might be attracted by the cooking odors in the dark. Instead, you got several simple, effortless options that I'll share with you. Preparing a meal out on the trails or even at home is as simple as adding water. It's best to use warm or hot water to rehydrate a meal. During the day out there on the trails, I like to use the 4 Patriot Sun Kettle to heat water when I'm not in a hurry. The Sun Kettle uses parabolic mirrors to focus sunlight and bring water to a boil. In direct sunlight, that can take up to an hour. But once you have hot water, the meal rehydrates in 5 to 10 minutes. Given the increasing number of wildfires and fire bans that are in our public lands out west, using a sun kettle is an incredibly safe method of heating water. It just makes sense. There's no fuel or flames to worry about. Plus, there's no water waste from putting out the fire. Besides making hot water for rehydrating freeze-dried meals, I also use it for preparing water for hot beverages, chocolate in particular. So at night, or when I'm in a hurry, what I do is I take and I set out my Alu-Cab aluminum table, which I really like, and I have a Coleman 1-burner butane stove that I use, and I can just heat water in a few minutes. Now, you can use cold water in a pinch, but it just takes longer, maybe up to 30 minutes. Or you can let them rehydrate overnight in your refrigerator. Some of the denser foods, like meats, might take a bit longer for complete rehydration, however. For me, wildlife safety is a huge component of this approach. And it's not just about bears anymore. While bears are still a primary concern, after all, they're found in 40 states. And these animals are capable of detecting food from miles away. Our changing wilderness is creating new challenges that any of us who do overlanding really need to consider. Now, from personal experience, I know that cooking over a campfire can really be enjoyable, but it can also unintentionally create a dinner bell effect that literally travels for miles. A bear's sense of smell is around 2,100 times stronger than humans. Black bears, grizzlies, polar bears, they can detect scents from many miles away. In fact, under ideal conditions with the right weather, the wind, the terrain, they can smell potential food sources from distances that seem literally impossible to us humans. And regardless of how far away they are, when they catch that scent, they'll begin their trek towards your campsite, sometimes arriving while you're asleep. This incredible sense of smell is why proper food storage and minimizing cooking odors is so critical in those 40 states where bears live, roam, and call home. And here's something that you might not have thought about. There's been an increase, a dramatic increase in other types of wildlife encounters all across North America. In Texas and the Southeast, for instance, expanding populations of wild boars have led to numerous documented campsite raids. Wild boar are intelligent, powerful animals that can smell food from 5 miles away, and they have caused thousands of dollars of damage to camps and vehicles while they're searching for food sources. And they're not just destructive, they can be extremely dangerous too. Adult boars can weigh up to 400 pounds, and they're surprisingly fast, and they have been known to charge when startled or feeling threatened. Between the years 2000 and 2019, researchers recorded 163 separate reports of fatal wild pig attacks, resulting in 172 human deaths worldwide. One particularly gruesome case occurred in southeast Texas in 2019, when a 59-year-old woman was killed by multiple wild pigs outside a home where she was a caretaker. Wildlife officials report numerous incidences of aggressive encounters each year. And I've seen wild pigs down here in Florida. In western states, mountain lions have been reported investigating campsites in California and Colorado, particularly when campers were cooking meat. Unlike bears, these predators are nearly silent. Several documented cases involved campers only discovering the cat's presence through tracks that they found the next morning. Currently, there are only approximately 4 to 6 cougar attacks on people per year in Canada and the United States, with only about 0.18 resulting in fatalities annually. In California, a fatal mountain lion attack occurred in March of 2024 marking the first such incident in the state in 30 years. The attack claimed the life of a 21-year-old man in El Dorado County. The infrequency of fatal outcomes is further emphasized by the fact that since 1868, there have been just 29 cases of fatal mountain lion attacks on humans in North America, averaging less than one death every 5 years. However, even in supposedly safer areas, we're seeing increased wildlife pressure. Coyotes, now found in every state except Hawaii, have become increasingly bold around campsites. In 2024 alone, Park Services reported over 200 incidences of coyotes raiding campsites, primarily attracted by cooking smells and improper food storage. Coyotes have been known to kill human beings, but such incidences are extremely rare, thankfully. There have been only 2 confirmed fatal coyote attacks on humans in North America: a 3-year-old girl in California in 1981 and a 19-year-old woman in Nova Scotia, Canada in 2009. And here's something that I find surprising. In Alaska and some of the northern regions, moose have become an unexpected campsite visitor. While they're not attracted to your cooking specifically, the salt in cooking scraps and dishwater is what draws them in. Given that a full-grown moose can weigh up to 1,500 pounds and they're notoriously unpredictable, that's not a midnight visitor that anyone really wants to have. There have been at least 2 documented fatal moose attacks in recent decades. They both occurred in Alaska, one in 1995 and the other in 2024. Folks, 2024 shaped up to be a rather bad year. That being the case, we should take every precaution we can for this year, right? Wolf attacks on humans are rare, but there's more of us doing overlanding, and we go into wolf territories, and that means that we need to be aware of their presence. Wolves are highly intelligent social predators, and they have an exceptional sense of smell, capable of detecting scents from over a mile away. While they typically avoid human interaction, food smells from cooking can pique their curiosity, leading them to investigate campsites. There have been documented cases where wolves have approached camps, scavenged through improperly stored food, and in some rare instances displayed bold and aggressive behavior towards humans. In 2010, a camper in Alaska was fatally attacked by a wolf near a remote village, and that's one of the very few confirmed fatal wolf attacks in North America. Most of the time, however, wolves pose a risk to pets and to livestock, and their presence can intimidate campers, especially when they're traveling in packs. Minimizing cooking odors and securing food properly not only reduces the risk of drawing wolves into your campsite, but prevents unintended encounters with these elusive predators. But do you think large predators are the only thing that we need to be concerned about? Let's talk about a challenge that's been widely reported in the overlanding forums and in social media, and that's the constant battle with smaller nuisance critters. Mice can squeeze through holes as small as 1/4 of an inch, and they can chew through the vehicle's wiring and upholstery while they're searching for food particles. Raccoons also seem to have become increasingly clever around campsites. Just look on YouTube and you can find numerous videos showing them operating cooler latches and finding their way into what seem like really secure storage. Overlanding sites report cases of rodents chewing through fuel lines and electrical wiring, attracted by food residue under vehicles. It should be noted that mice can carry and transmit several diseases that pose health risks to humans. The outbreak in Yosemite National Park was caused by hantavirus, specifically sin nombre. It's a virus called SNV, which is carried by deer mice. In the summer of 2012, an outbreak of hantavirus infections occurred among overnight visitors to Yosemite, resulting in 10 confirmed cases, including 3 deaths. Even those cute and seemingly harmless chipmunks and squirrels are documented causing significant damage to camping gear while searching for food scraps. Chipmunks, for instance, can transmit diseases, and they include the hantavirus, Lyme disease, salmonella, plague, and other things. They also can cause significant property damage. And let's not forget about rabies. It's worth noting, however, that all of these attacks and disease transmissions that we've been discussing in regard to wildlife are thankfully relatively rare. Nevertheless, this is where an integrated food system really proves its worth. You dramatically reduce all of these risks, both from large predators and small critters. Instead of broadcasting cooking aromas across the wilderness, you're simply boiling water and rehydrating your food in a sealed pouch. There's no grease splatter or food particles in your campsite, and there's no lingering cooking odors in the air or in your gear. So whether you're in grizzly country or just trying to keep mice out of your engine bay and gear, this approach could significantly lower your campsite's scent footprint and help protect you, your safety, your equipment, as well as the animals. Something that I really like about this kind of an integrated system is the simplicity of cleanup, which is really important when you're overlanding. I just dispose of my modular bag in a trash bag, and then I rinse off the spoon, spork, and I usually just take and lick my spoon just as clean as I can, and then I use just a portion of the paper towel, dampen it, and wipe it down really good. Do that twice, and I'm done. So I don't have any greasy pots or pans to worry about. I don't have dirty dishwater that I've got to take and dispose of and be concerned about where I put it because of attracting wildlife. I don't have to put out a campfire. It's just a level of simplicity and safety that traditional camping can't match. Now, let's look at how this transforms your power management. For me, the difference in power consumption between my two setups, the old refrigerator and the new one, is really dramatic. Over a 24-hour period, my new Dometic setup draws only 25 amp hours compared to the Snowmaster's potential of 60 amp hours at max settings. That's cut power consumption by more than half. To put that 35 amp hour difference into perspective, that saved power could run your laptop and your phone for an entire day, power your camp lights, CAP machine, and phone charging all night, keep your communication gear, your GPS, and a tablet running for extended navigation, or charge multiple camera batteries, drones, and other adventure gear. It's nearly a 60% reduction in power consumption. If you've dealt with limited solar charging under those dense forest canopies and through endless days of rain in the rainforests, you know that this difference isn't just significant, it's a game changer, absolutely. These aren't just numbers on a screen. They translate into real-world advantages when you're deep in the wilderness. So there's less strain on your electrical system, and you have more reliable operation under a forest canopy, minimizing any of that need to idle the engine just to charge your main batteries. It's just better energy management across the board. That gives you more time to enjoy the great outdoors and spend less time worrying about your power management requirements. And look how the system optimizes your storage space. The Dometic's footprint is significantly smaller, basically 22.5 roughly by 13.5, compared to the Snowmaster's roughly 30 by 20. Thus, the Dometic takes up half the space of the Snowmaster. And by optimizing where you place that on the Goose Gear platform, I've reclaimed valuable storage space. Space that's absolutely crucial for storing large amounts of freeze-dried food in these large plastic containers that have a seal around the lids. So I can take them on those long expeditions and not worry about running out of food. This is where this overlanding food system really comes together, right in your own home kitchen. You don't need to treat your home and trail food as separate things. Instead, it's just a constant flow. I don't scramble to prepare meals for expeditions or go out and spend thousands on commercially freeze-dried food. Instead, when I make something at home to eat, I take what's left over and I freeze-dry it. So for example, yesterday I just made homemade chili, and that'll be perfect for a long day of off-roading, right? It's ready to go anytime. But I also ate some of it. So you can just build this into your weekly routine. When you're cooking, you just simply make extra proportions to fill a freeze dryer tray and you stick it into the freezer. Then when you have all 5 trays filled and frozen, you load them into the freeze dryer and you run the batch. And dinner leftovers, garden harvest, farmer market finds, even restaurant leftovers, they can all become your expedition ready meals. And here's the brilliant part. Every meal you preserve actually serves 3 purposes. Yes, it's building your trail food supply, but it's also creating an emergency food storage for your home. And it's eliminating food waste. So remember, these aren't just camping meals. They're your own meals that you eat every day at home, and you're preserving them at their peak with all their nutrients intact. Whether you're planning to go deep into the wilderness for months on time, or you're just planning your next weekend trail ride, you've got delicious food that's ready for any adventure. This isn't just theory or wishful thinking. I've been testing the system here at home for the past year. And I plan to use it on extended expeditions through some of North America's most challenging terrain. Through dense forest and remote wildernesses, this system delivers exactly what I think I need. Complete food independence, no compromises on meal quality, and reliable power management. This powerful combination of a smaller fridge with a home freeze-dry meal system isn't just a gear modification, it's a complete rethinking of expedition food storage. And the best part? Anybody can implement this system, just scaling it to their own needs and their own adventures. So let me ask you this. Are you tired of watching your battery voltage level drop under a heavy forest canopy? Frustrated with limited food options on extended trips? Have you ever had wildlife checking out your campsite? Or maybe you're looking to break free from those expensive pre-made camping meals. Let's start a conversation about real solutions that work in the real world. Subscribe and hit that notification bell to catch my upcoming videos. I'm constantly testing new modifications to this system, finding ways to make it even more efficient and cost-effective. Together, we're not just upgrading our rigs, we're revolutionizing how overlanding adventures are powered, packed, and enjoyed.